Don't go out and buy yourself a custom Washington Commanders Brandon Aiyuk jersey just yet, but also don't dismiss what's happening between the star receiver and the San Francisco 49ers. We talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders. Don't forget that you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you're hearing this podcast. I am your host, David Harrison, credentialed member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for CommanderGameDay.com, a part of Sports Illustrated. And I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. Greatly appreciate you for coming through for today's episode. Everydayers, thanks for coming back on a regular basis like you do. On today's episode, we are going to discuss or hear from Tress Way discussing his jersey number swap, a little bit of a funny thing he tried to do during the team's media day. We're also going to hear from receiver Jahan Dotson on trying to be better in year 3. But first, while the video of San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk discussing his future with his current team with Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels shouldn't send you to the customized jersey shop right now, it also shouldn't be ignored either. If you want to discuss that or anything in this episode or anything else Washington Commanders related, you can do so by texting me directly. As a Locked On Commanders insider, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders and get in on the ever-growing group of insiders today. From there, you will text me. I'll text you questions, answers, inside content, information, live text from practices, games, press conferences, and more. So again, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to get in on part of that today. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. No, you should not go ordering a custom Brandon Aiyuk Washington Commanders jersey. It would be a lot of fun to do it, but no, you should not go do that. But definitely also don't stop paying attention to what is happening in San Francisco. So if you missed it, Washington or San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk posted, he had someone else video him FaceTiming with Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels, and then posted to his TikTok account a video of him telling Jayden Daniels, quote, "They say they don't want me back," end quote. And of course, the inference here that everybody is making is the San Francisco 49ers, as the two sides are kind of going back and forth in contract negotiations. Jayden reacts the way that he reacts. Brandon Aiyuk says, "For real," or "I'm for real," something like that, paraphrasing there. And that's pretty much the end of the video. And of course, it set off a firestorm of conversation on social media and reactions of people talking about potential trade for the Washington Commanders to acquire Brandon Aiyuk, who is a well-known, very good, maybe even best friend to Jayden Daniels, dating back to their days at Arizona State University together. Jayden's freshman year, Brandon Aiyuk's final year before he entered the National Football League. FanDuel even went as far as to tweet a potential trade package, which includes wide receiver De'Ami Brown and a 2025 second and fourth round picks from the Washington Commanders to the 49ers for Brandon Aiyuk. So it definitely stirred up a lot of reaction. So I figured it would be a good time to talk about it here on the episode. First of all, no other NFL news, no practices coming up or anything like that. So this is the season to talk about topics like this. And let's get one thing understood right off the bat. Brandon Aiyuk and Jayden Daniels absolutely want to play together. Understand that. I don't even have to ask either of those guys that question, because bro code alone will tell you that those two guys, given the opportunity to ball together again, would absolutely want to do it. Now, that being said, Jayden also reportedly wanted to play for Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce. I believe that to be a true statement and true sentiment. Tom Brady spent his entire career essentially wanting to play for the San Francisco 49ers, most powerful quarterback we've ever seen in the National Football League. Never made it happen. Bobby Wagner wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys at a point. Jason and Travis Kelce, they wanted to play together in Cleveland. Never happened. So there are a lot of things that pro athletes want to have happen at times and over the years that they don't necessarily get. Not a lot of Devontae Adams out there, for example. Devontae Adams grew up a Raiders fan, basically forced his way out of Green Bay in a trade to go play for the Las Vegas Raiders. That's great for him. Not a lot of players get that opportunity. Not a lot of players get to realize that. So while that is a fact, and you should understand that that is a fact, that alone does not necessarily mean that this is going to eventually happen. Star players, especially the better of a star you are, the more of a star you are, actually, the harder it is for you to manipulate your situation and get everything that you want. Bobby Wagner, for example, wanted to play in Dallas for Dan Quinn. They can never make it happen because of either roster spots or for contract purposes. So just the desire to want to make it happen isn't enough. So while Brandon and Jayden's video isn't necessarily about getting the Washington Commanders to trade for the receiver. It's a lot more about Brandon Aiyuk basically keeping his struggle, arguments back and forth, whatever you want to call it, with the 49ers in the public eye. And Jayden, being the friend that he is willing to be a part of it, which is now why it lands on Locked On Commanders and why it's become a conversation around Commanders fan circles. And some people, especially looking at my insiders, I kind of solicited reactions from insiders, and they range from go make it happen right now, give whatever you got to give, go make it happen, but only pay, a reasonable amount. I've got one person who says put Terry McLaurin on the trade block to go get Brandon Aiyuk. And I've got other people say this is ridiculous. We shouldn't even be talking about it. So the reactions definitely spread or cover a wide berth, right? But here's the thing. I will tell you again, don't go order your jerseys, but also for the group that says this is stupid and pointless and there's no reason to talk about it, that's not true either. There's definitely something to talk about here because of the situation and because of the context that we're talking about. So in case you need a refresher on Brandon Aiyuk's situation, Aiyuk is about to play on the final year of his rookie deal. His 5th-year option is this year. He's set to make $14.1 million because of that option. But just like every other player, he wants security. He wants an extension. That's number one. Aiyuk, from a business sense, understand this, wants to stay in San Francisco. So let's get that straight too. Like, this whole thing is geared towards getting San Francisco to give him the extension he wants. So this is not about Brandon Aiyuk forcing him away out of Washington, but we're also going to get to why Washington needs to pay attention. Now, he also wants security, and here's why Washington has to pay attention. Here's why they are paying attention, I promise you. And here's why you as a Commanders fan should still care about what's happening in this situation. Because again, the two players want to play together. The team could potentially need a receiver, and San Francisco may not pay Brandon Aiyuk, not just this offseason, but also next offseason. And if San Francisco is not going to give him the security that he wants, he's going to do whatever he can to go and get that security. So the reports are the 49ers have offered Aiyuk a contract extension worth about $26 million per year on average. As receivers go, that would be the eighth highest per year average in the league today. My guess is Aiyuk wants at least top 5 money, if not top 3 money. And that is more complicated now that Justin Jefferson has signed his market-setting deal. So to get top 5 money, Aiyuk would need to earn on his extension at least $28.5 million per year. That's only $2.5 million more than the reported offer. So I can't imagine that these two sides are going to go to these lengths over $2.5 million. So I'm thinking he wants top 3 money, which would eclipse Amon-Ra St. Brown's deal with the Detroit Lions and pays him just over $30 million per year on average. So whoever, whether it's the Niners, the Commanders, the Steelers are attached to this thing, the Jaguars have been attached to this thing, whoever is going to get Brandon Aiyuk in 2025 and forward, I think he's wanting a deal that's at least $31 million per year. And that's a number that the Niners either can't afford or are simply choosing not to afford right now after giving Christian McCaffrey, the running back, a new deal this offseason. And they're staring down the barrel of needing a new deal for quarterback Brock Purdy this coming offseason, next offseason. So the other side of this, which is why I tell you not to buy your jerseys, is that San Francisco has no reason to trade him. Honestly, even if they don't give him the new deal, even if they end up losing him next offseason, they have no reason to trade him. He's not going to hold out, if at all, for long. Like, he's going to play. And they're in a Super Bowl window with their number one receiver, Brandon Aiyuk. So they don't need to move Brandon Aiyuk. They have no inspiration to move Brandon Aiyuk. And again, like I said, Brandon Aiyuk, he might take some fines, but he's not going to take all the fines. Believe me, he's going to eventually get back on the field. And for the 49ers, as far as why this could lead to him becoming a free agent next year and free to go negotiate, is the 49ers just drafted wide receiver Ricky Pearsall in the first round of this last NFL draft. They also drafted Arizona receiver Jacob Cowing in the 4th round, so they're developing him. They still have Deebo Samuels under contract through 2025, and they can spend a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever round pick they want next year on another receiver to add to that stable, and then get a 3rd back in 2026 from a Brandon Aiyuk deal somewhere else as a compensatory pick. So the 49ers are really not in a position where they need to make a deal or they need to move him. They can absolutely roll into 2024 with everything status quo kind of as is. Brandon Aiyuk is the one who kind of needs to try to move the needle here, which is where this video comes from. So there's 2 truths here to grasp as I see it today. The 49ers are not going to trade Brandon Aiyuk this year or at all, but they don't appear to be willing to pay him top 3 receiver money. And Jayden Daniels and Brandon Aiyuk absolutely want to play together. Given that Washington currently has close to $100 million in projected cap space next year, and they've got 2 receivers in Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, which every day is, we've talked about this before. If the Commanders decline Jahan Dotson's 5th-year option next offseason, both of those guys will be playing on expiring contracts next year. So you bring in Brandon Aiyuk on a new 3 to 5 year deal, whatever it is. You pay him probably the money that he's going to ask for. And now you basically go into into 2025 with Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. Essentially, one of you is going to prove you're our number two. The other one's going to become a free agent, and or you'll both become free agents, right? But you're not going to re-sign both those guys. So, and Brandon Aiyuk coming to Washington conversation does not need to never happen. I just think right now it's a little premature because of just the way that I see the context and all sides of this conversation. So no, Aiyuk is not going to protect Jayden Daniels' blind side. I've had that question as well. So it's still likely that we'll probably need to see some upgrades made on the Washington offensive line next offseason, even though they try to make a lot this offseason. But even if that's the case, even if you need offensive line help next year, that doesn't prevent you from going and getting one of the top receivers in the NFL today if he is available. But if I'm Niners GM John Lynch, I'm trying to find the money to keep him and squash all of this once and for all. Speaking of, and two wide receivers, Jahan Dotson took some time out following a recent mandatory minicamp practice to talk to us about his upcoming third year, the vibe around the team, and more. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Summertime means baseball. It meant the NBA Finals, means the Stanley Cup Finals, and more, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can then use to bet on everything from Finals MVPs to who you think is gonna hit a ball out of the ballpark. The NBA Finals are a wrap as the Boston Celtics ran the Dallas Mavericks into the offseason, won their 18th championship in franchise history, the most of any NBA franchise to date, unfortunately for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, we haven't had a repeat champion in the NBA in a while now, but the Celtics are plus 300 favorites to pull it off in the 2024-2025 NBA season. That's right. You can get future champion odds already. They're not even 24 hours celebrating their championship. Of course, if you're looking for some betting action that will see a sooner return or an earlier return than next June, the Florida Panthers could lock up the Stanley Cup championship with a win over the Edmonton Oilers tonight, and they are 1.5 goal favorites to do just that. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks again for making Locked On Commanders your first listen, your first view today and every day, everydayers. Thanks for coming through. Come back tomorrow. We've got a special guest coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk more about the mini camp, more about the observations about this new look Washington Commanders team. So make sure you come back for that. And then all through the rest of the week, we will continue to have content coming out for you stemming from the Washington Commanders mini camp into training camp. In the meantime, make sure you're also checking out Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel that is programmed for you, the sports fan, every single day to bring you the biggest stories, can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, all streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We got to catch up with Washington Commanders receiver Jahan Dotson following a mandatory minicamp practice last week. Haven't brought that to you here, so we're going to bring that to you. Starting off with talking about the new vibe around the team and how he is approaching his third season, wanting to be better than he has been so far.
Yeah, it's been pretty good so far. Just trying to be better than I was last year. Trying to be better than I was yesterday. That's really the main thing that I'm going at it. The main mindset I'm going at it this year. And be where my feet are. That's a big thing I've been telling myself, right here on the practice field a couple minutes ago, just trying to be in the moment, live in the moment, get everything out.
Being where your feet are, it seems like they're using you in a lot of different ways, or at least trying to find out where an athlete is best used on the field, turning punts and things of that nature. You're open to whatever this new coaching staff is throwing at you?
Yeah, 100%, because I know that they're doing a great job of putting me in positions where I succeed and basically playing to my strengths. So it's been pretty good learning the offense and getting to build relationships with Cliff and Coach DQ. But yeah, they're doing a great job putting me in positions to be successful in this offense, and not only in this offense, but on this team, like you said, punt returning, because I'm comfortable doing those things, and I feel like I can have a lot of success.
What have you learned about yourself? Obviously, the first year you had some success, and then second year, a little adversity. What have you learned about yourself as a football player? Yeah,
a lot, especially going through last year. I feel like, as you go through the highs in this goes for life itself. When you go through the highs in life, everything can feel like, you're on top of the world. But when you get to go through some lows and go through some adversity, you really find out a lot about yourself. And you really get to find out who you are inside. I'm a guy who wants to just go at it that much harder when things aren't going my way. Things didn't go my way last year. Didn't have the year I wanted. So I went at it in the off season, and I'm trying to just, like I said, be better than I was last year, and put all my hard work to test.
Also, you said that last year didn't work out the way you wanted to. So looking at your game as far as what you want to improve upon and talking to the coaches, they're looking. What are some of those areas that you say, this is where I've got to be better?
Yeah, I would say, after the catch, getting a lot of yak yards. That's one thing that I did a very good job of. I feel like my rookie year, that I feel like I can get back to. Just effort after the catch, and then just being present every single day. Like I said, I'm really focused on being where my feet are. So just being in the moment, and basically living it up and soaking it all in.
John, when you look at a quarterback like Jayden, who's able to manipulate the defense with his own movement behind the line of scrimmage, as a receiver, what do you do when you have a quarterback that has that capability? How does that affect what you're doing downfield after the design is kind of over?
Yeah, stay alive, because he's so dangerous with his feet. You can see it out here on the field. He's fat. He could have took one for 80 today, smoked our defense. So, it's really exciting having someone like that behind center, just because they can create a second play. In this league that we're in right now, a lot of big plays are made on second plays. So, it's really cool to have someone like that leading your offense, and, I can't wait for it.
What has that meant for the receivers as far as the improvement with Jayden out there for you all as receivers?
What was that?
What have you seen as far as the improvement for the wide receivers with a quarterback of his caliber? Do you see some change as far as how you all are getting the ball receiver-wise now?
I wouldn't say change. Like I said, there's a second play that happens a lot, and he's able to make those plays with his legs and extend the plays with his legs, and he's able to make those throws on the run with his arm. He has tremendous arm talent. He's putting it to show every single day. So it's pretty cool just being out here and just learning the offense with him and going through the ups and downs of the offense. But things aren't going to look perfect right now. It's early. It's June. But we're going through it together, and that's the biggest thing for us, is making sure that we build this thing every single day together.
Third season, third offensive coordinator. How does Cliff differ from your previous experiences?
Yeah, he's good. He really does a good job of putting people in positions where you're playing to your strengths. I mentioned that before. I feel like I'm really good inside in the slot. He's letting me play there a lot, get a lot of snaps there. But I also feel like I'm really good moving both inside and outside, going for myself. So he's letting me do that as well, being able to have some position versatility. He's trusting me to get to know the offense, and I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of that. And he's letting me show my versatility as a wide receiver.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Appreciate you, John. All right. Once again, that was Jahan Dotson, Washington Commanders' third-year receiver, talking about a lot of things with us. Greatly appreciate him taking some time out of his day to speak to us. Also heard from punter Tress Way. Always great to talk to Tress. And, of course, we talked to him about his jersey number and a fun little thing that he tried to get away with during the team's media day that he didn't get away with, but still a fun story to hear. Let's come back for that and more coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Commanders, we talked about Brandon Aiyuk. We heard from Jahan Dotson. Now, let's hear from Tress Way talking about his new jersey number. Is it set or is it not? A little bit of fun he had on team's media day and a little bit more to wrap up today's episode.
I thought this would work for mini camp and start at training camp. I don't know if it's supposed to, work this way, but my wife says I'm a 10, so I thought, what, I'll give it a go. She says I have a great personality, so that really counts for something, except for, maybe me not being as stunningly handsome as I once was or ever was. But 10 for now. Man, Adam and DQ, everybody was awesome. They were like, hey, pick something just for practice right now. It's training camp, and, preseason goes on, then we'll solidify it. But we did media day, took some pictures, didn't hate it, looked okay. So we'll see.
I heard that there was a question mark that you tried to potentially get on
Tried to go for the question mark. Yeah, I tried to do the question mark. It just got shot down, I think, due to something with the NFL rules. It has to be an actual number, but, thought I'd be like the Riddler and give it a shot out there. It didn't work. So yeah.
Disappointing.
Yeah, disappointing. I thought it'd be perfect. I mean, whatever. It's this time of year. Thought it would be a funny picture, but you got to let's just do it the right way. I don't blame you.
With all these changes, what's it been like for you and here as long as anything?
Yeah, I think hands down my favorite part of, I guess you could say, this change that I've been a part of is the ability for the entire building to feel like one piece. Man, how DQ runs his team meetings, how is running our special teams meetings, how practices look, the vibe, the energy, like everything. It is so fun being around a bunch of veterans that come from great franchises and winning teams and things like that, and everybody brings something different to the table. It's very, very special time, very fun time, so very thankful.
I'm just letting you go, man. You're the pro.
I was gonna say you had to shorten Izzo's name to Iz.
Well, that's no, I guess yeah. So yeah, Izzo, yeah. So Coach Izzo, but yeah, we all just say we just say Iz, but yeah. So Coach Izzo, yes.
You just talked about DQ and what's going on. Obviously, after last year, you're watching what's going on with the organization, changes taking place. When you got here and started to see what was going on, how different is it than what the experience you've been through here before?
Yeah, I think probably the coolest part of every change that I've been through. It's always special to see each change. Somebody tries to bring something in different, and you get excited. It's different. It's new, and I think what was really cool about like how DQ handled it, and particularly with Adam as well, was how much they asked us to do. Like asking us to have our team goals and our team purpose and how we want to do things instead, and it goes both ways. I think it's great when some coaches look at you and go, hey, this is how we're going to do it. Man, it adds a whole new level of accountability when the coach tells you, hey, you tell me how I'm going to hold you accountable. And that's a fun way to practice. That's a fun way to interact in the building. And it was really cool how he gave us all the opportunity to kind of highlight our own strengths. And ultimately, if everybody brings their unique strengths, hopefully that's what leads to wins. And so that has been very cool to see. Never seen something like that, and very impressed by it.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it here on Locked On Commanders today. Thanks for coming through. Coming up tomorrow, again, we got a special interview with another member of the media talking about their impressions of what we've seen from the Washington Commanders so far and a little bit of expectation heading into training camp. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, just throw them in the YouTube comment section or text me directly by becoming a Locked On Commanders insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. So don't forget to also check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever 24/7 live streaming sports channel on YouTube. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day. Everydayers, thanks for coming through like you do. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and we will see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.